years back, I took a group of confirmation campers to Camp Luther Rock in North Carolina. And that's how you have to say it. You have to say it like you have wads of gauze in your mouth, like when you're at the dentist. North Carolina, right? So I like camp. I enjoy it. I'm going with our campers, our confirmation campers, when they go to Camp Stony Lake in June. I really enjoy camp. This camp is, you probably don't know a lot about the mountains of North Carolina, I'm guessing. Not a lot of Michigan folks tend to go there. It's interesting because the climate is pretty much the same. When you're up in the mountains in North Carolina, it's about like it is here. In the summer, highs are in the 70s, maybe high 70s, low 80s. Campfire weather at night, right? In the winter, they get a lot of snow. The climate, the temperature is very similar. And the topography is completely different. It's like the baby Rocky Mountains. I mean, it really is. There are places in North Carolina where you can get above the tree line. So it's really like this, which makes it a great place in the summer to go, camp. It's also a great place for adventure things, right? So there we were. We were at confirmation camp, and it was the first day, and counselors were talking us through what's going to happen that week. And they said, and on Wednesday, that's going to be the day that your group gets to go on the high ropes course. And all the kids went, yay! And I went, I'm not a high ropes guy. I'm not a high guy. I go hunting, but when I go up in a tree, I'm like this high. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a fan of that. We honeymooned in San Francisco, and we went to the Golden Gate Bridge, which is fantastic. And I took about 3 steps out on the Golden Gate Bridge and went, I don't think so. In fact, just the day before, we had gone to Swinging Bridge in North Carolina, which is exactly what it sounds like. And I stood there for a while, and I looked at Swinging Bridge, and I went, nope, and did not go. What happens when you go on these youth things and they announce things like that, all right, is the same thing happens every time. They announce what you're doing, and then some kid, maybe you've experienced this, some kid looks at you as the pastor, and they say, are you going to do that, pastor? So Nicodemus doesn't want people to know that he's going to see Jesus. He's afraid. And the conversation that they have, it's one of the longest conversations in the Bible, and he asks question after question after question after question. Everything Jesus says is another question, and another question, and another question. And you contrast that, right, with the people in the beginning of the Gospels, where Jesus walks up to them and he says, hey, come follow me, and I'm going to make you fish for people. And yeah, they do that. They just drop their nets and off they go. And here's Nicodemus asking question after question after question, and he never gets there. He doesn't get there in this story. He doesn't get up and follow Jesus. He doesn't say, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to do what you do. He doesn't do that. Nicodemus shows up again later in John's Gospel when Jesus is on trial. And he kind of says some things that are maybe kind of designed to help Jesus out a little bit. But he didn't really stick his neck out. He certainly doesn't get up and follow him. Nicodemus appears one more time in John. And this is after Jesus is dead. He's been crucified, he's been killed, and in the middle of the day, in the middle of the light, when everyone is watching, it's Nicodemus who goes and helps prepare the body. And whenever I read that, I always get this sense that what Nicodemus is filled with at that time is regret. That he had his chance, and he had his other chance, and he didn't do it. Because he had to think about it all the time. He was standing at the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge trying to convince himself it was going to be okay, and he never went. He was standing at the edge of this swinging bridge, and he was thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and he never went. And what I've learned from Nicodemus and from my experience on the high ropes course is that you can stand there and you can think about it and you can think about it and you can think about it all you want. Sometimes it doesn't help you go. Sometimes you just got to take a leap. Now, I'm not talking about being stupid. I'm not talking about going into a room full of coronavirus people and sharing lollipops. Okay? We are aware of coronavirus. You're going to hear some things that we're going to offer you opportunities to do differently at the sharing of the peace and communion. I'm not talking about, doing dumb stuff and not using your brain. God gave you a brain. Please use it. Okay? But sometimes you can just think about stuff and think about stuff and think about stuff and never get there. And if God is calling you to do something, and you know you're going to be okay in the end, and maybe we even get a great zip line ride at the end, just go. We've been talking for a while about our radical hospitality and being more gracious, more kind, more inviting, more generous. Well, when you or I are gracious to someone, we don't know how they're going to respond, do we? They might respond by being gracious back. They might not. We don't know. We're never going to know. All we can do is leap. We don't know how someone's going to respond when we're kind to them. They might respond with kindness. They might respond with not kindness. We don't know. Every time we do it, it's a leap. Oh my gosh, you don't know how somebody's going to respond when you invite them. My goodness. Talk about a leap there. And generosity is the same way. Every time you give something away, it's something that you don't have. That you could sit around thinking, oh boy, I might really need that later. I really might. But if we do that with everything, with all of these things, then eventually we don't do anything. We just stand there at the Golden Gate Bridge looking at it. And it's gorgeous. But we miss out. We miss out on the opportunities. Right? I mean, we have Youth-Led Sunday next week. And you have your ideas about worship. I have my ideas about worship. Maybe the kids will meet those ideas. Maybe they won't. You know what I've never heard anybody here say? Never heard anybody here say, I wish we had less kids. We need to get rid of some of these kids. There's too many of them. Everybody always says we want more kids. Well, if you want more kids, you can sit around and think about whether they're worshiping the right way, doing the right thing, whether they stand this way or this way. Or you can just leap. You can just leap and support them no matter what. I don't know if you've read your email. I'm sure you have. I'm sure everyone reads their email around here with great diligence. Dave Backey's looking away. Maybe Dave doesn't. Caught you, Dave. I'm sure everyone reads it with great diligence. But if you haven't, and you haven't picked up your newsletter, if you don't get the email, the newsletters are available by the mailboxes. Holy Cross has hired a director of worship and music, and it's very exciting. And her name is Sally Messner, and I'm pumped. I think Sally is fantastic. I can't wait to get started. The process that we used, right, I talked about using your brain before. The process we used was extensive. The group that did the interviewing put in a ton of work. We interviewed Sally several times, other candidates several times, checked out everything we could. Here's the thing. When I started here, Jeff and I probably, and Ellen were on the call committee, some other folks, Lisa, how much time do you think we spent together? We spent a lot of time together. We spent more time together in the first week than we did in that interview process. Can you imagine having a 40-hour interview process for somebody? It'd be daft. People would think you were crazy. We've done an extensive interview process. But anytime you hire someone, call someone, it's a leap. And I'm sure there's things you've learned about me over the course of the past 2.5 years. You're like, I didn't really think he was like that. Or maybe you thought, I thought he was the other way. That happens, right? So here's our philosophy of hiring people. All right, this is our philosophy when we hire people. We are using the Pittsburgh Steelers method. Okay? All right? The Pittsburgh Steelers are a football team. Okay? The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 head coaches since 1968. In an industry where the average tenure of a head coach is 4 years. And every one of those coaches has won a Super Bowl. And so somebody asked the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they said, how do you do it? How do you get these coaches and have them for so long and have so much sustained success? And the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers said, our philosophy is we hire talented people and we support them until they figure it out. So that's our philosophy here. We have hired a talented person, okay? And now it's our job, all of us, to support her until she figures it out, okay? We are taking, as with everything, a little bit of a leap. But we know that if we support her and she's talented, it's going to be great. And there's going to be things she brings that none of us expected or thought of or knew were coming. And they're going to be like that zip line ride at the end. And we're going to be like, woo, here we go. Right? We all have moments in life where we have to figure stuff out. Decisions to make, whether it's being gracious, kind, inviting, generous, who to hire, what we like in worship, where we're going to go on vacation, all of these things. And at some point, you gather up all the information and you just got to go. My hope and prayer for you and for all of us is that we can be people of faith, true people of faith, because faith is not what happens up here. Faith is what happens when we do this. And if we do that, if we leap when God calls us, we're not just going to be okay. Things will be great. Amen.